everyone. Welcome back for our second episode of Top Rope Spoilers. I'm Steve.
I'm Kia.
This is On the Ring Apron, our Top Rope Spoiler special for NXT Worlds Collide, the second, and unfortunately under the UK format, the final time we'll see it under this format, as this is basically NXT's version of Survivor Series, as NXT goes head-to-head with NXT UK. A lot of unification matches coming up, as unfortunately we do say goodbye to NXT UK and hello to the new NXT Europe.
Starting off, I want to say good morning, good night, good evening, hello to wherever you are in the world. We're glad that you watch us. Thank you. Keep supporting us. Follow our YouTube, our Facebook, our Instagram, and our TikTok. And the simple way of doing that is go to On the Ring Apron. If you see our logo, you know it's us until we can get verified.
That's right. And our camera lady and tri-person of all of this, Alyssa, running the camera today.
Hey, y'all. Again. Yeah.
Not much to say on this one. For full clairvoyance, so that way the crowd is aware. Alyssa, you joined us too late, unfortunately, to get into the UK brand. So your knowledge of UK is virtually none. And we're not insulting the brand by any definition. But you're still going to throw some picks in there. But Alyssa has decided that she wants to remain behind the camera for this one, only because she's. At least being honest, UK was not anything you were able to get into, but you are going to give Europe a try.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a good place to start with all of this, is that the whole idea behind this is a lot of people, and I hate that I've seen this on social media, because a lot of people are saying, like, oh, this is the death and the failure of NXT UK. They fell victim to COVID no different than anyone else, exactly. And it really hit the UK scene hard. They did the whole empty arena thing for months, even after the United States went back to putting people in arenas. But you see Triple H has come in and it's wasted no time building up NXT UK, back up, putting them on a grand stage against his NXT babies, if you will, and is launching something even greater. So honestly, I would view it more as a success story, because now you're expanding outside of the UK and now you're going into Europe as a whole continent.
Exactly. The fact that you can put in, I'm going to give Triple H all the praise in the world. First of all, Vince stepped down. I know that had to be the hardest thing to do, but to actually put someone in your place that knows the direction he wants NXT to run, he wants Raw to run, he wants SmackDown to run. Congratulations for you being put in that position. You've done nothing but great things over the last, month, bringing people back and making sure everybody feels comfortable in their role, behind the scenes, in the ring, and everything else. He's more of the type, because he was living it, he wants them to wrestle. And that's telling the story for everybody, everybody to see.
Well, you said it yourself. That's what NXT was built off of.
Exactly.
This has been Triple H's legacy really since day one, going back over 8 years ago when NXT made its debut. Exactly. Shawn Michaels now is second in command. The shirt seems to fit well, showing off the DX. Are we allowed to do that? This is the internet, right? We're allowed to do, just about what everything. And I marked it wasn't set for kids.
Two words for you. I'm not going to say them.
Worlds Collide.
There you go.
There we go. Let's look at the scoreboard here real quick. Now, this is pending the scores of yesterday's Clash at the Castle. Sorry, drew a blank there for a second. Clash at the Castle pay-per-view. So anyone who saw our special on that sees the scoreboard. 6 is across the board for SummerSlam. The OTRA is currently holding the advantage by a point over myself, 2 points over Alyssa, 4 over Kia. But we're not even to the halfway point of the season yet. There's plenty of time to go. And with this being a double live event weekend, this should be fun. We will be at the Performance Center for this, so, look in the crowd for us, look for our Blue Mania Club jerseys. How many, where we're going to be sitting, I truly don't know. They kind of decide that when you go in, but only, 150 people allowed inside the Performance Center. And for the, saying goodbye to UK, this is going to be a relatively big event, and also the first NXT premium live event since Triple H took back over. And he's going to do it. He's going to do it big and bring back the NXT of old.
There you go.
5 matches. It's according to who you talk to. There's either 5 or 6 matches on the card. The first one we're not doing an official preview for, but our community page, which is where the OTRAs put in their votes, does have a decision on the British Rounds match between Axiom and Nathan Fraser. Both, of course, UK folks. Both are former Heritage Cup winners. Right now, there's still question because Wikipedia says it's on the card. WWE.com says it isn't. Subject to change. Maybe it's a pre-show match. But we're not making an official pick on that. But if you haven't seen a British Rounds match, I highly encourage you to tune into that whenever it happens, whether it's at Worlds Collide or whether it's on NXT or the first NXT Europe. I highly encourage you to see it. These are different matches than you see anywhere else. The rules are a little bit different, and also it's one where there's no storyline to it. It's actually realistic, type of battling where truly technique and the idea of British endurance really comes into play. So I highly encourage anyone to watch that match. So with that being said, we are going to go over the 5 that are on the card. All are championship matches and a chance for me to show off my UK belts for the final time, and then that's back to the bank for another loan so I can get some more belts. God, these things are expensive, but being a belt collector is hard. But the first one was the match that actually got announced last, and it was on this week's episode of NXT, and that is for the North American Championship, as the A champion, Carmelo Hayes, will defend his North American Championship against the returning blue brander Ricochet, a former North American champion himself. Carmelo has, along with Trick Wiliams in his corner, has, argued for weeks now, like, why is it that your best champion is not on the card? Why is it that your top champ, I don't care what Bron Breakker or Tyler Bate, I don't care what they're doing, why is your top champion not on this monumental card? And it is a guy who has held the North American Championship, has that main roster experience, coming back to finally tell Carmelo, basically, shut the hell up and let's battle for a title because I want gold again.
Not only saying that, first of all, let's go ahead and get it out the way. Knowing me, I was
Is it coming?
I was expecting Butch or Pete Dunne to come back and to it be who it
I was hearing a lot of Johnny Wrestling chants, honestly. I thought it would be Gargano.
But we did not expect Ricochet, the one and only. I didn't expect him. It's good to see him back. I'm glad he's back, and I feel like this could be a potentially good match. Nothing against Carmelo Hayes. Nothing against Ricochet. Let's see what you can do. Get off the mic and get in the ring.
A lot of high flying. And the one thing you can say about Carmelo, despite the fact that he's younger and he's brash and he's cocky, is the fact that he basically delivers. He has the mantra of, when I shoot, I don't miss. And he's been able to do it. But Ricochet, for the most part, has been able to hold his own a lot of times against guys far larger than he is and has been able to keep himself in the mix for a long time. But it was always at NXT where he tended to be at his best, including a long run with this very title right here when he was still in NXT. So you would think that this would be the perfect counterpart to Carmelo, the yin to the yang, the alpha to the omega, whatever you want to call it, to try to get yourself your best possible match here. And the good news, for Alyssa behind the camera is the fact that you are familiar with both of these guys. We're going to get a t-shirt that says, because that's always how she opens.
That is how I open. Chill on me. Let me see. I think Kia hit the nail on the head when it came to my initial thoughts on this match. I was not expecting to see this man. And also, I know I've seen him a lot, but I forgot he was bald. So...
Ricochet?
Yes, I know.
He's been bald as long as he's been with us.
I know, but for some reason, I did not see this man bald in my head. But now I see him bald, so I'm like, oh, wow.
I think...
And also, he's shorter, too, than I thought.
Are these going to be daddy vibes?
No,
I feel like she's... Where this is coming from, we didn't expect to see Karrion Kross come back with hair. And
exactly. It's messing with my brain, honestly.
Yeah, that's where it's coming from.
Did anybody else mention anybody who watched Top Rope spoilers for Clash of the Castle? I don't think we said Karrion Kross once.
Not once.
Not.
I thought it. I thought it.
But
we didn't even mention him once.
Well,
so just a little side note there, speaking of former NXT champions and other things that could happen. But anybody who hasn't watched with us before, and even if you have, our YouTube community page is where we officially put in our votes, and you as the OTRAs get an opportunity to put in your votes too. The picks are not official until the bell rings, so you still have time, even now, to still go back and make your voice heard. Exactly. So let's see where this stands. I'm going to pass this off to you so you can show it off for a little while. But for this particular match, at the time of the recording, still subject to change.
Bring it up.
There you go. And the pick's actually behind Kia's head, but it's 79% in favor of Ricochet, actually being the person who's going to ultimately be able to... apparently, the OTRA's going relatively heavy in terms of Ricochet coming back to... I want to say the black and gold, but that's not how it works anymore. Coming back to the 2.0 and relieving Carmelo Hayes of his title. And maybe not a bad pick. I mean, maybe they're ready for Carmelo to make the move up, and maybe Ricochet goes back, similar to Dolph Ziggler's run earlier this year, where maybe they have Ricochet go back. He's more successful and more popular down there, and Carmelo gets a brief run to see what he can do against main roster talent.
Well, it worked for our
absolutely worked for Apollo.
It worked for Mandy Rose, our women's championship. It
we'll
worked
be
for
seeing
her.
a little later.
She came back from the top from the main rosters to NXT, where she was very well known and very popular. And she's been doing the damn thing for almost a year now?
Mm-hmm. Closing in on it. She won it in October. We're in September of the next year. She's closing in on a year.
There's no
Who would have believed that when that started?
There's no shade and there's no toxicity, so don't come after me, Mandy Rose. Please don't.
She follows us. Don't you get an unfollow because of this.
Don't.
Remember that when we're making our picks. I'll open with this one because I believe I picked last in our last pay-per-view. I don't. To me, it's like if you were going to really bleed a possible title change here, you don't promote this on literally the final segment before the premium live event. It almost feels like this has all the feel, no disrespect to Ricochet, this has all the feel of they were lining up someone else. You know, I don't know, and Ricochet was the guy they pulled out at the last second, but it almost everything feels like they had someone else that they wanted, and whether the timing didn't work out or the contract didn't work or whatever, you know, I could see Alyssa crazy like Cody Rhodes, like it's gonna be Cody, isn't it? But either way, just to me, it has all the feeling of they stalled and they waited until they absolutely ran out of time, and then they had to put somebody out there because you can't have the North American champion going out there without a challenger.
There you go.
I don't see a title change here. I think it'll be by Crook. I think Trick Williams definitely makes his voice and his body in there known. Carmelo shoots, he doesn't miss, he walks out, still North American champion.
I would have to. Excuse me. I would have to agree with you. Here's my thing with this. We both stated it. We assumed it was going to be someone else. I viewed it as Pete Dunne. Or, excuse me, Butch.
Butch!
You saw Johnny wrestling. We know that's not the case because here comes Ricochet.
Well, Butch was a little busy the night before, so...
But but you have to think, it didn't matter if he was busy or not. I feel like he could do it. My thing is, Ricochet is great. He's held this title before. I would like to see him with it again. I really would. But in turn, I can't sit here as much as I want to say it. Carmelo Hayes has been a fighting champion every step of the way. Now, mind you, he runs his mouth. There's nothing wrong with it. But you either put up or shut up. And for the last almost, several months, he's put up and he will not shut up. So I feel like, for me,
it's okay to run your mouth if you got the
if you
can write the check that your mouth writes. You know, if you can ask and cash it, then go with it.
It's not cockiness, it's confidence, and he has all the confidence in the world to hold his title.
Not cockiness if it's true.
Exactly. This is his title, his baby. I feel like he's going to retain.
Alyssa?
I'm going with a mix of what y'all both said. Absolutely. I don't see Ricochet taking it. Honestly, like I said, my jaw hit the floor when I was like, who's this bald man? And then I was like, oh, Junk, that's Ricochet. And then, no disrespect, but that man is shorter than I thought he was going to be. Like, I've seen him next to big people.
I'm glad his height is the reason for her.
I'm sorry. No offense to you. I mean, you're a great flyer and everything. You know, all power to you, big bro.
No
but yeah, honestly, it makes sense for Carmelo Hayes to keep it, and you came out of nowhere, my guy. So
OTRA, you walk alone on this one. So
sorry,
either we're gonna be the experts online, or we'll be the idiots who don't have a damn clue what they're talking about. More often than not, it's been the latter. Anyone who saw the scoreboard, we're getting our butts kicked. Not really, but either way, let's move to match 2. This one is again all of our matches on the card are championship matches, as this will not land where I wanted it to. But this one is for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. They were talking about the champs, Katana Chance and Kayden Carter, potentially heading to the parking lot to have a party and have a celebration. Woo! And then, boy, did we get a shocker of a reunion as former NXT and NXT UK competitors in Nikki, A.S.H. And Alyssa, I'll let you take it. There we go. She's the only one that can sing, so we got to let her do it. But let's just say my head about hit the ceiling when I heard that music hit, because I'm like, oh, here we go. As Doudrop and Nikki A.S.H. Now the darker, more black look upheld Nikki A.S.H. now returning to represent the UK brand in a matchup against the champions Kayden Carter and Katana Chance.
You have to understand these two women right here, despite the names and who they are, have been together. They're literally, in reality, they're best friends. So I can see how the chemistry would favor the both of them on the screen and off the screen. They have worked their hardest. In the ring, out of the ring, they go above and beyond. They do what they need to do, and right now they're getting the opportunity of a lifetime to hold these titles right here. And I'm sorry to Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez for the way they fell out. I'm sorry, but what two better women are deserving? Nothing against Toxic Attraction, but to me, these two women are probably the best to hold these titles right now.
This was long overdue.
It really was.
This title run was long overdue for Kayden and Casey for the longest time, and now Kayden and Katana.
I just feel like they were underappreciated more.
Show off those plates.
I feel like they were underappreciated.
You gotta bring it up. Let me see.
I say hand to Alyssa because she actually can see the camera spot, but show those off. I mean, those are actually some nice plays. Honestly, I like Katana's. I think hers was very well done, but a nice look there.
There you go.
Now back to our smiling mugs. Sorry, I apologize. But no, I mean, you look at this title run was, in my opinion, long overdue. I think some worthy champions like Raquel and Dakota, when they were together, absolutely deserved it. Toxic Attraction was a great choice.
Yeah, they were.
But when you think about the last probably 2 or 3 years of women's tag team wrestling, once you took away the 4 horsewomen, once you took away Raquel and Dakota, this was your team. This was the team that everyone said needs to wear gold, or you need to break them up so one of them can go win it. I don't know which one. I don't know which one is built to be a singles champion, to be the NXT Women's Champion. So to me, the tag team titles being on them is perfect. Easily the toughest challengers they're going to face up to the stage, because Nikki and Doudrop, of course, bring that main roster talent. Nikki, a former Raw Women's Champion, so she knows what it's like to be at the top of the mountain.
Yes.
And has been there. Doudrop, and actually both of them have won the 24/7 championship a couple of times. Granted, maybe not the most prestigious title in the game, but still, the fact is they know what it's like to win gold, and they also know what it's like to compete where the stage is the biggest. So, and also getting a chance to come back and defend the UK roots, when in the last pay-per-view of the UK run, especially when you had Doudrop, formerly known as Piper Niven,
which they need to go back to that
getting a chance
name.
to come back, and then Nikki Cross. So a lot of names getting a chance to go back one last time to defend the roots of where they all started. This has every making of, a match that very quietly could go under the radar as a good one. Alyssa? Do it with us.
What y'all did have
What
to
y'all
do.
didn't have to do with me. What y'all did not have to do with me.
Put it on a t-shirt. Go buy it.
Alright, for real though, honestly, this one kind of came out of nowhere to me too. Like, I'm not gonna lie to y'all.
Another one that the challengers came out on the last possible night.
I was like,
But this one's not as much of a surprise because, see, Ricochet has no UK background, at least when it comes to his WWE and NXT run. Doudrop and Nikki, this is where it all began. So,
okay, see, I didn't
So
that
that brings it back. They're both from, she's from Scotland and she's from England herself, so,
Nice.
fitting right into that UK motif as well. I hate the fact that they can't do anything in Cardiff, but,
yeah,
I mean, a nice give back under the circumstances.
absolutely.
Alyssa, you're up first for your pick. OTRA's first, because, again, still time to go on the community page and pick. But right now, we have 72% of the votes favoring Katana and Kayden to retain.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sirs.
I'm not going to say that's a surprise. I think that sounds about right. And like Alyssa pointed out, it's kind of the timing of how late in the card setup that this match came into play. But it is what it is. Alyssa, go for it.
I feel like and when I say they, I mean Nikki and Doudrop are coming in to kind of just give them like a good match, because let's think about it. Like, who on NXT was going to give them...
Besides Toxic Attraction, I guess.
Besides Toxic Attraction. But Gigi Dolan is hurt, so it's like...
True.
Who else was going to... You had to bring somebody in. So it's kind of like...
I didn't think about that with Gigi's injury.
Yeah.
That did kind of eliminate a possible rematch with Toxic Attraction, and so
So-
maybe you needed to pull something out of your hat here.
There you go. And they weren't going to be there. So, they can come over here, make them look really good, and then they'll still walk out champions. So my pick is going to be Kayden and Katana.
Okay. Yeah.
I love both teams. Also understanding, like Steve said, these two, it's a give back for everything that they've done. The fact that they've paired up and they've meshed so well, and I feel like Nikki is actually more or less a shade of what she used to be when she was before Nikki A.S.H. honestly. So I would love to see these two win. I really would, because I feel like that would be great for them. But I don't see the titles coming off of Kayden and Katana. I feel like these two, again, day in, day out, they've got the chemistry. They work well together. You have one who's just fierce competitor, and this one right here was American Ninja Warrior. So I feel like that would play to her strengths. I feel like these two together, they're unstoppable, unbeatable, and then the fact they also have chemistry. My thing is I'm going to pick Kayden and Katana to hold on to these titles, because they're, at this point, I felt like they were underappreciated, and it's time.
You know, and I kind of agree with the sentiment that I think that, you know, you've got the right team to hold these titles in NXT. I think that, again, when you think of women's tag team wrestling in NXT right now, it's Kayden and Katana that you think of. I think there could be other teams that potentially could come up. You've got other teams like Ivy Nile and Tatum Paxley, you know, who potentially could merge together with Diamond Mine and, you know, could come in and give them a good run for their money. But I do agree with the fact that I think Gigi's injury might have stopped Toxic Attraction from jumping into this one, and maybe you needed to put something together. I will say, under the circumstances and considering the theme of the Premium Live event, a fantastic choice. And I think H pulled together something. But also, if you've been watching Raw and SmackDown, you're seeing the slow burn but the slow implosion of the Nikki, A.S.H. and Doudrop team. And I think this is just going to be another one that's like, I understand we're not even beating main roster competitors, but we can't even beat NXT tag teams now, you know, and most of the time it has been due to mistakes by Nikki, and I feel like this could be where you finally maybe start seeing that turn if they don't win, and I think this could be where it all kind of, the final catalyst to all of it. So I'm agreeing with everyone. We're going to go same across the board here. I like Kayden and Katana to retain.
Now, for anyone who's been watching, Doudrop, again, I'm not Alyssa, so I can't do it quite as well, and Nikki A.S.H., did we ever think their backstage segments on SmackDown and or Raw is what they were probably talking about doing this, going to Worlds Collide? Food for thought.
Very well possible. So let's move to our third match. All three remaining matches on the card are unification matches, which means the respective champions from both NXT and NXT UK are going to compete with both championships on the line. Winner takes all, as they defunct away the UK championships into the NXT titles. We will begin with the tag team championships from both perspectives, and this one is actually going to be a fatal four-way elimination match. Last team standing wins, and this is for both the NXT and NXT UK championships. And let's see, so you'll get the NXT one, I will get the UK one. The current NXT champions, we'll show off the plates here, is Diamond Mine, the Creed brothers, Julius and Brutus. Giving you a quick glimpse at those, just real fast. And then the UK championship, currently held also by NXT competitors, Briggs and Jensen, getting an opportunity to show off the UK tag title. And I hate it because I got this belt so late. You know, this was the last belt of the collection, and now it's only going to get to make one appearance, we think, and then that's going to be it. But they, of course, are not the only two teams in this. As former champions of both of these titles, and Pretty Deadly, the team of Kit Wilson, and Elton Prince. I knew I'd get there if you gave me a second. They've held both of these titles. And then you also have former NXT UK champions in Gallus, which is Mark Coffey and Wolfgang. That's always a fun name to go with. I mean, a name like that, I'm sure you can guess which one is Wolfgang.
This one right here.
Yeah, that big old brute right there. And then Mark Coffey, also a former Heritage Cup winner as well.
Oh, looks like a fine cup of coffee.
You know, you've got four teams that have kind of been the epitome and the definition of what NXT Tag Team Wrestling has been over the last year or two, especially during the COVID era. You've seen teams like the Creed brothers and Briggs and Jensen really come into their own. Pretty Deadly coming in and winning the NXT tag titles on their very first night, including beating the Creed brothers to get to it, immediately put them back on the scene. And Gallus has, for a long time, ran roughshod through NXT UK in terms of holding on to these championships, beating Mustache Mountain ultimately to get them. And, of course, we'll see a member of Mustache Mountain a little bit later on the show. But, both titles on the line. The glory of NXT and NXT UK, especially with the American sides holding both championships at the moment. That's got to sting for the UK teams a little, that they're walking into basically a Survivor Series type of feel, but yet they're not holding either of the golds because an American team able to come in and take the UK gold literally back to America to win it. But last team standing wins it all. Kia, your thoughts on this one?
I really don't.
That's her line.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. For me, I've seen each and every team. I'm not going to say I love each and every team, but I will say I like each and every team. They all bring something to the table that actually makes them unique in their own right. You have, I believe, these two, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they're brothers, if I'm correct.
Correct.
These two right here, I believe, are best friends. These two, I don't know how they work. I think they're friends, and I believe they just are friends as well. I'm not quite sure on the background. It is what it is. I can only give my spill on this team right here and how much I truly love them, part of Diamond Mine, and how they are willing to hold on to the titles that they're holding and make sure that they bring prestige to the titles. I can't speak for anybody else. Pretty Deadly, I'm going to say with all the love in the world, I do not want to see no more titles on them. They're too cocky.
You don't care how good they look?
I don't.
I mean, I'm just saying, if I was to, wait, this is a family show.
Oh my God.
Hey, nobody wants to see that. Not for me, anyway. But either who. Alyssa, again, I know your knowledge of, the UK side, so I know Gallus is going to be brand new to you. You've seen a little bit of Pretty Deadly during their small amount of time with the American brand before, the live event coming up here. Any thoughts on this one? Because you'll still make a pick, but you at least are up front that your knowledge is not 100% across the board.
I was going to say, go America.
Go America. Sorry.
All I can really say about this one, and it's not much, y'all. I am so sorry, but
Well, that's why you watch Europe. This won't happen the next time.
It's got me spiked that. No. Jesus Christ. Y'all, I really don't know.
It's all right.
Here.
That's okay.
Please.
Either way, we'll move to the official picks here. And this one will be relatively brief. But let's see who the OTRAs have first. Right now, as of the time of this recording, 78% of the voters are going with the Creed brothers.
Yes, sir.
To,
yes, ma'am.
I guess, retain their titles and also win the UK tag titles and unify them. 17%, we did put the second place person, is going with Pretty Deadly. So actually, nobody giving Briggs and Jensen or Gallus any love in this one. Because you got to think, that's eating 95% of the vote there. Yeah, 95. I had to stop and do math there for a second. That's dangerous. So only 5% of the vote splitting between those two teams. I don't know if that's a knowledge thing or just no confidence. But it looks like they're leaning heavy towards the Creed brothers. Kia, you get to open with this one again. It's an elimination match, so teams can team up with each other to try to go against one another. But who is the last team standing?
For me, I feel the last team that would be standing is Diamond Mine. I feel like when they won the titles, there was nothing but heart and dedication and devotion and determination. And you have to think who they had in their corner at the time. Their dad actually got to see them win these titles. You had Roderick Strong, who is a veteran of, what to do, what not to do, the rights and the wrongs and everything else. So for me, my personal opinion, I'm going with Diamond Mine. I'm going with the brothers. I feel like they have that chemistry to eliminate everybody else.
Yeah, and we've seen what kind of, how long they can go. They ran that gauntlet for seemingly forever before it was finally Pretty Deadly, but Pretty Deadly was their fourth match in that gauntlet run, and they still hung with them far longer than I think a lot of people would. Alyssa, where are you heading with this one?
I think I'm going to have to go with the Diamond Mine as well. Running that gauntlet match back in my head, would that be one of the few matches I've seen from these people? Absolutely.
So right now, everyone across the board, including the OTRAs, going with Diamond Mine. I'm going to be the one who's going to throw the curveball in all this. I'm going Gallus, actually. I had a chance to actually watch Gallus in the UK for a little while. That is no slouch team that's up there with Wolfgang and Mark Coffey. And there are actually other members of Gallus as well, but they're the two representing the team in this particular match. honestly, I think it's going to come down to Gallus and Diamond Mine. And to me, the rift with Roderick Strong is going to be the difference here, because I feel like, I mean, Roderick was willing to come out during their singles match with Gallus on NXT this last week because he wants to clear himself, he wants to clear his name, he wants to show off this evidence that he supposedly has that he wasn't the person causing issues, and ultimately it cost them the match, and Gallus got that one-on-one win, over the Creed brothers. And you've also seen Pretty Deadly being willing to do what needs to be done. The UK team is going to come in ready to go. The Fatal 4-Way rules also means no disqualification, no countouts. So Roderick and any other members of Gallus, as well as others, have full right to interfere with this any way they want. Of course, Briggs and Jensen have a person in their corner, a young lady in their corner as well, who is known to stick her nose in when she feels it would benefit her boys. So I just feel like, this has all the makings of something where you're going to need a shocker here. And I feel like this is maybe where you get it amidst all the other matches. So I'm actually going to call a very deep upset, taking the long shot here. I'm going to go Gallus to walk out with both championships. They walk in with none, they're walking out with two.
Okay.
So we'll see how that pans out. And now we move into our two, our co-main events. And these are for our singles championships. We will begin with the respective women's championship unification match. This one also a multi-person match, a triple threat match to unify both the NXT championship and the NXT United Kingdom Women's Championship, as the current NXT America champion, Mandy Rose, battles against the United Kingdom Women's Champion in Meiko Satomura, the final boss, as well as UK's number one contender in Blair Davenport. Davenport is one who was owed a championship match and had earned the number one contendership against Satomura on UK before the announcement was officially made that they were going to bring it into the UK. And so when they announced the unification match between Satomura and Mandy Rose, Davenport put herself there and goes, I'm still owed a title match. You're not leaving me out of this. And so she's able to get herself in. Satomura very quickly using her afforded powers as champion to say, okay, we'll make it a triple threat, which once again, like our previous match, means no disqualifications, no countouts. First pinfall or submission walks out with both titles.
Can we state for the fact, if we all watched NXT this past Tuesday, because I'm so used to it being on, I think, Wednesday, all the returns and everything that we saw when it came to the people returning to speak, Ciampa, Rhea, Pete Dunne, or Butch, how they all came back to speak to these individuals to let them know, hey, you're doing this for a legacy, you're doing this for NXT, you're doing this for NXT 2.0, however you see fit. So I felt like it was fitting for those people to come back to make sure their 2 cents was put in.
How about Mandy and Rhea going nose to nose with each other, Mandy's like, everything you've run your mouth about for the last year means squat unless you win this match, But then you also have people like, Satomura, a legend in her own right. Most people consider her to be the top person in all of women's wrestling. It's not a WWE or an NXT thing. It is, her legacy and everything that she has done worldwide is legendary. If you've never seen a Meiko Satomura match, you're in for a treat, because she is just very similar to what we like to talk about on here with like The Miz or Dolph Ziggler. But we're talking about it 3 times that level. She makes everyone she gets in the ring with look better. And to even get a match on your resume with Meiko Satomura is considered an absolute honor in the name of women's wrestling, especially when she was doing it at a time when women's wrestling was frankly the bathroom break. And now she calls herself the final boss, but that's not a mantra. That is absolutely what she defines as, is she is the top of the ladder. She is the end-all, be-all in terms of women's wrestling. A match against her is already enough. A win over her,
awesome. Your
your status goes through the roof, because the number of people who've beaten Satomura in her lifetime is a very, very short list. So you're in for a treat, and even with 2 challengers, and considering the fact that Davenport and Rose are both far younger than Satomura, do not underestimate Meiko in this type of match. She is built for a match like this. I'm pointing to Alyssa, knowing that she doesn't know. She basically, the only one you can really speak on is Rose.
Yeah. Stop it. When it comes to Mandy Rose, we all know she's been doing her thing over this last year. Well, almost year. And, you know, I didn't see her before this, so... I mean, she's done her thing, and I think she'll do her thing in here. Now, where she stacks up against everybody else, we're going to find out.
And don't underestimate Blair Davenport either. I mean, she absolutely is a heel competitor over in UK that is very similar to, you know, the top heel that she's going to win by hook or by crook and is willing to do whatever it takes to score that W. And, you know, she has been able to be the one person lately who has been really able to get under Satomura's skin. Something you don't normally see is a lot of emotion from her. And so Davenport is the one person who, between the two champions, could be the one that can play that mind game the best. Also, of course, the triple threat rules eliminate, you know, any disqualifications. We know Gigi's hurt, but that doesn't mean JC Jane can't come out and get involved. Davenport is certainly not opposed to using her fair share of tricks as well. So, you know, again, first pin takes it all. So we move to the official picks. First, the OTRAs, and we have another dual pick here. But right now, 54% of the voters are going with NXT Women's Champion Mandy Rose, with 28% going with Meiko Satomura. So right now, as I think expected, no love for Davenport in this match. I think a lot of people are expecting that she's taking the pin in this match and to make both Rose and Satomura both look strong in this particular instance. So it's going to be curious to see, you know, where all this ends up going in terms of, you know, who's going to win. But the OTRAs look like they're heading with Mandy, of course. Still time to throw in your votes. Alyssa, you're up first on this one. You know, again, your knowledge being kind of limited in this particular one. You know, I think your pick's probably going to be pretty obvious. She wants to know our pick first, and that does seem fair. You know, I mean, I can go first on this one. You know, because of the fact that the championship is going to stay, you know, with whoever ends up winning it, that understands that the winner has to be willing to stay in America and they're going to represent NXT Europe with a new champion. So you look at someone like Satomura and you think, okay, it makes sense for her because she is the most experienced and has that legendary status for Satomura to be the one to win, but then that means you don't have her available to potentially represent NXT Europe when you get your start because you're going to need it. But also, is this a situation where Satomura, maybe this is the swan song? Maybe this is where she's going to go unify both titles and then she's going to head off in, you know, to the Red Sun and decide she's done with holding both championships and essentially allow both sides to reset. So that's a possibility there. Of course, you know, Blair has come over and has certainly put her name in here. You know, but in my opinion, I think the OTRAs have it right. I think with it being here in the U.S. and a chance for her to build the legacy even stronger than it already is, I am going to go with Mandy Rose to win this match. I think that a lot of her matches, surprisingly, it hasn't been so much about Toxic Attraction needing to be in her corner. You look at some matches, and granted, she's reaped the benefits of some other storylines, such as Dakota Kai turning on Raquel Gonzalez at the time, and you look at Cora Jade turning on Roxanne Perez, and Mandy's been the one that's reaped the benefits. But she's also won a number of matches 100% on her own, where she's gone out there and has competed well. Her ring skill is far beyond that. I do think she's met her match with Satomura. I think Satomura is going to be what people are going to be talking about at the end of this match. But honestly, I think the OTRAs basically have it right. I think Davenport's there to take the pin or the submission, however it goes. And I do think it will be Mandy Rose that ultimately will find a way to get through it, and she's walking out with both titles.
All right. You state Mandy Rose. I've seen her come in. I've seen her come in as a rookie, I believe off of Tough Enough, if I'm correct. And we didn't see that she was ready. You clearly see over time she's grown mentally, verbally, emotionally. She's good on the mic. She's good in the ring. She's done nothing but try to hone her craft, and she loves wrestling just like she said she did. And you could see it just from the statement she's made for almost a year. She's been here. She's doing what she needs to do. And yes, I am very proud to say that she's been doing a lot of on her own. She's not just talk, and that's what people would, I feel like, get, is she's all talk, but she's not going to win. She's pretty much shut the mouth of everyone that was against her, and she's on this hot streak. I don't see her losing. Now, Satomura, I don't know much about her. I've had to go back and do my research. She seems like a very fierce competitor. I'm not going to lie to you. She is even scary to me, and I don't wrestle. So I wish the other two competitors the best of luck in this match against Satomura. But like you said, this may be her swan song where she say this might be the end for her. In my opinion, Davenport, no one's giving her a fair shake, and I'm not going to start with being that person. I'm going to go ahead and nothing against her. You know, I feel like she's a pretty legit badass. Censors, please. And I'm going to pick Mandy. She has given us no reason not to have these titles uniformed for her.
Unified.
I meant, you know.
Uniform. Unified.
I mean,
awesome.
unified. So I feel like Mandy Rose is walking away with
Right
both
now,
titles.
So we gave you a bailout, Alyssa. Everybody across the board, including the OTRA's, taking Mandy. You going to stay with us?
What?
Of course I am. That's the only one I know.
So
Mandy Fruin.
we've got her back there having a giggle fit. So you got. I'm gonna turn that camera and let them see you in a second. But Mandy across the board. Now that, and again, I'm not. This is one of those heart versus head. Honestly, I mean, I'm gonna be sitting here watching, and I'm gonna be rooting for Satomura. But I truly think Mandy is the right pick here. You know, so I can see it heading that way. And that moves us into our last match of
The night.
the event of the weekend of everything else, as the two top champions of the NXT brands finally clash with the legacy of both of these championships on the line, as the United Kingdom champion Tyler Bate, the first and actually only, and he'll end as the first, last, and only two-time UK champion, will defend his United Kingdom championship against the NXT champion Bron Breakker. Breakker, of course, a two-time NXT champion himself, having a little snafu, a little hiccup and a bump in the road against Dolph Ziggler earlier this year, but he rebounded, won back the NXT title, and has been successful ever since.
Yes, sir.
But when you talk about United Kingdom and everything that NXT UK has stood for, there are a lot of big names on that list. You talk about Walter, now Gunther, Pete Dunne, now Butch. I mean, the list goes on and on. Trent Seven, Axiom, A-Kid, Jordan Devlin, who's now McDonough, who got a chance to come over for a little bit. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the great names that have come over from UK, but one name has resonated above all the rest of them, and it has been the inaugural United Kingdom champion. He's going to start UK as the champion. He's going to end UK as the champion, and that is Tyler Bate. Mustache Mountain, he's done it as a face. He's done it as a heel.
Yes.
He's done it in every way you can think of, but the reality is he's been the best of the best. He was not... I'm going to win the tournament, have a small run, and then that's it. It took a great run from Pete Dunne to take that title off of him originally. He stuck around, won the tag titles a few times. I think he won, if I recall, he won the Heritage Cup once. But, he's made his run through NXT UK. He's won every championship there is, and now he wants to end with gold on both sides against, the best that NXT America currently has to offer with Breakker.
We know Breakker's lineage. We know, where he's coming from and what he is trying to continue. He's trying to uphold something for his family, for himself. I see all his bumps in the road have made him stronger mentally, physically, verbally, emotionally. And it's nothing against Tyler Bates, because I feel like you stated, he in all facets has done it every which way, up, down, side to side, back, right, whatever you want to say. I feel like either or could take these titles and have them unified, across the board. So for me, I'm not gonna sit here and say, one is better than the other. I'm gonna say that they're both good competitors, and so I feel like this is going to be a good match, one that I'm highly invested in. So, Alyssa.
I had to fight everything in me not
to not say.
Yeah. Like I always say, I don't really know anything about Tyler Bate, but what I do know about Breakker is that I have seen the evolution in him, going from snapping at anybody looking at him the wrong way. Every little thing you say, any little thing to this man, he's gonna at you and all that. Like, again, the lineage, all that. But we've seen him grow in each, like, defense. Like, with Gacy, with whoever else he done fought. You know?
Well, losing the title to Ziggler for a little while and then having and his war with Ciampa to win it in the first place.
Exactly. So it's like, you've seen the growth in him. And I think this will be a great way to just reward him for all that growth. Go ahead and unify them titles. Okay. Also, one last thing, and I'm not trying to be a comedian right here. I really thought, I'm so sorry to this man, but I really thought that was a Von Wagner at first. And I was like, what? I don't know where I got it from.
I can see the face and the hair probably
yes,
tipped
I was
you.
like,
Yeah,
where's
the guy's short? This one's shorter, and where's the forehead?
And he looks better.
There you go.
There you go. Sorry.
It is what it is. The one thing I'll say before we move to the picks, what a fantastic job NXT did on the last episode of having all the former champions. You've got people like Gunther and Pete Dunne coming back to talk to Tyler Bate. Dunne doing it over video, Gunther actually showing up in person, to actually sit here and say, you represent everything that UK stands for. You defend the legacy this Sunday against NXT to truly say during the run between both of us who was truly the best NXT. Every champion resides within your title. And then you have former champions like, you talked about Rhea Ripley going to talk to Mandy Rose. Well, then you talk about people like Tommaso Ciampa showing up at the end who Breakker had to earn his respect.
Yeah.
He had to earn it because he, even after losing the title, says you didn't earn it. You still don't know what it means to be NXT champion, and he forced Breakker to go into those deep waters and forced him to have to find a different person. And Breakker, like Alyssa pointed out, the evolution of Breakker has shown off something here because he is definitely not the same wrestler he was a year ago in terms of his evolution because of the people that he has gone up against who have made him a better person and a better wrestler and ultimately a better champion. Both legacies, everything NXT has stood for, everything that the United Kingdom run of NXT has stood for, all boils down to this single match as NXT UK says its final goodbye. And what better way than to have the first champ, the last champ, and the only champ, only two-time champ, have an opportunity to go head-to-head with NXT's best. This is one, get your popcorn, sit back, enjoy, because this one's going to be a classic.
I've got a quick question because my memory's kind of foggy. I know Finn came back.
Yeah.
Who did he come to see? Please.
He saw Breakker.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't losing my marbles.
Because he's held the title twice.
So, like you said, all these returning champions, for UK and for, NXT 2.0, which was the black and gold brand at some point, I think Rhea jumped between both, which was...
Rhea held both.
Which is, a high honor for someone who I felt deserved it. In saying that, I feel like these champions came back and gave them the best advice that they could give them. Shayna was back, I think, to speak to someone too, if I'm not mistaken. And I feel like...
Talk to Mandy.
I feel like having those champions who have held these titles come back and talk to these champions that are holding them now, that's the best thing you probably could have done. It gives them, first of all, a vote of confidence. They're telling you, don't let everything that we've worked for, paved the road for, be lost on you. Win, unify them, and make them what we know they can be.
So we move into the final picks of the weekend, and right now it is 63% of the vote is in favor of the NXT America champion, Bron Breakker.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know how much of that is strictly just because, the U.S. brand is more wide known than the UK brand. And I think that Finn Balor very clearly made it, said it best to Breakker. He goes, we know how strong you are. We know how, fast you are. But he said, don't underestimate Bate. Yeah. He knows what he's doing. He's beaten people bigger than him. He's defeated people that are larger than him. He knows how to break down a person like you. Your strength alone is not going to win you this match. You have to go deeper than you've ever gone before. And then Ciampa just said it best to Breakker at the end. He gave all the advice in the world, but then he just looked down and just said, win. That's it. At the end of the day, win. Because that's what it's all about in the end. OTRA's going with Breakker, but it's not a foregone loss yet. So again, community page, still have time to go put in your vote before the event starts. Alyssa, your shot on this one?
I'm going with Breakker.
Breakker?
Yep.
Just experience factor or just simply you just think you think he'll find he's evolved enough.
I think he's evolved enough, and then his evolution with a combination of Finn coming back and really being like, look, he's small like me. I've beat people bigger than me. Pay attention. I think that in combination with each other will give him what he needs to be successful. There you go.
Nothing against Tyler Bate. I believe he's great and all, but I'm going to have to pull for, and I'm riding again with the Ultras, and I'm pulling for Bron Breakker. His lineage, everything he stands for, his evolution. I don't think he can go wrong. I feel like mentally, after Dolph took his title and pretty much paraded around with it, it had him look at himself and say, that's not what I want for the title, nothing against Dolph. He's probably a worthy champion. But I want what I want for my title, and it is my title. I've held it. I loved it. I'm willing to work for it, despite all odds. And the fact that Ciampa just came back and said it best is win. I feel like he's going to take that, and he's going to use that, and he's going to literally give it his all across the board to unify those titles. So I feel like Bron Breakker will be the walk-away. He gets it done.
And right now, I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you. Hey all, sorry to have to jump in like this and change all the last little bits of the video. Basically, we got to literally the final pick of the entire video, and then my phone ran out of storage. A pair of 50-plus minute videos takes up a lot of space, as you can imagine. So unfortunately, we couldn't get the last pick in. We got Alyssa's, we got Kia's, we got the OTRA's for the last one. So just a quick second to go ahead and make my pick for the final match. Looking at everything across the board, I see the legacy of what NXT UK has stood for. It has brought about everything. But I'm going to take Bron Breakker in that match, and the reason why I say that, remember who was the guy who led NXT 2.0 when they finished off the run against NXT Black and Gold? It was Bron Breakker that ultimately led the team to victory inside of War Games, and then had to be the one to beat Tommaso Ciampa to win the title and ultimately end the Black and Gold run and earning Ciampa's respect in the process. I feel like he's the person that's built to kind of take NXT to the next level, and now he's being asked to do it again by being the person who kind of brings the final nail in the coffin as we say goodbye to UK. I think Tyler Bate's going to give him a run for his money, don't get me wrong. He's been a great champion. But I think you need to end UK the right way, and in the samurai way, they have to go out on their sword. Bron Breakker will reunify the titles and will walk out with both championships. So again, sorry for the technical difficulty on the end of that. If you haven't gone to our community page, take a second, go enjoy it. Make sure you get your votes heard, because again, a lot of those tallies are still relatively close until we actually are able to. The bell officially rings. The polls don't count. But you guys go enjoy Worlds Collide, enjoy Clash at the Castle. If you haven't watched it yet, go back on the network and enjoy it. And you guys have yourself a great evening. We'll see you at the Performance Center. Have a good one.